All right, so first question is by Ivan, and I didn't want to butcher his name, so I just kept it at that. How does polishing a watch affect its value? Now, if it's an older watch that's say 15 years or more, that's got some vintage character and it's, box and papers complete and it remains unpolished, that's something I'd probably not polish. But if it's a watch that's a year or two old and it's got some scratches on it, just go ahead and polish it because, perfect example is I'm not gonna buy a watch for myself that's only a few years old that someone else is scratched up. There's just something about seeing it on there that I can't stand. It's the really, really old stuff. You wouldn't want to go take a watch that's 20, 30, 40 years old that's unpolished and polish it because the fact that it's remained unpolished for so long is what gives it so much character and so much value. So I hope that answers that question. Second question is from Manroy Watch. The market price right now, is it fake? Or the prices really got high? The best way I can answer that is to explain that Rolex makes 1 million watches a year, roughly. Every year we have more and more people coming into the market. Every time we have these big auctions, more and more people are become aware of the watch market and become more interested. This past 6 months that we've had this crazy pandemic, people were very restricted on travel, they were restricted on spending, on going out, and we feel deprived of not being able to enjoy that. So you've got half as many watches on the market, you've got twice as many people buying watches, so the demand is far exceeding the supply, and then naturally it's not just the watch market, it's every market. It's RVs, it's boats, it's not travel, it's cars. Everything is up. And just like every bull market, you're gonna have a bear market. Things are gonna go high and then they're gonna level off, and then they're gonna go high and then they're gonna level off. There's another question in here that I'm gonna get to at the end about vintage, and it kind of says the same thing. So as far as it being fake or not, I guess that's what you're asking is it going to drop? Of course it is. Nothing can stay high forever. Stocks, real estate, it all recorrects. Now, is it gonna take a massive plunge? No, I don't think so. But I do think it's gonna recorrect. Next question is by F.718. What prices do you think the 41mm subs will end up by the end of the year? I don't know. We've already seen a drastic drop. As of the day of this filming, date subs are trading as high as 14. No dates are trading about 12, 12.5. When they started right out of the gate, you saw asking prices of 18,000 for date subs and 14 to 15,000 for no dates. They've obviously leveled off a little bit. I don't know where they're gonna be at the end of the year because it's October as of the time of this filming, and we're about to go into the holiday rush. Will prices spike back up? Probably, because people aren't gonna be able to get them just because it's Christmas. So the demand is again going to go back up. Where do I personally see them valued at? I think right where they're at right now. I think the no date's worth about 11 to 12 and the date is worth between 13 and 14. So let's see. Next question by CA Watchman is, what do you see with the price of the Rolex Hulk into the future? Well, as far as putting a number on it, I can't tell you that. As far as where it's gonna go up. It's a stainless steel Rolex sport model. It's got a colored, it's a sub, it's desirable, and it's discontinued, plain and simple. Anything discontinued, anything Rolex sport model, anything stainless steel goes up, plain and simple. Hill James 93 asks, do you conceal carry? I can't answer that question on video, but I can tell you that this is Texas, and I think we actually have 3 times as many guns as we do residents. So I think I've even seen a mock-up of a dog holster, a gun holster for a dog. So that's all I can say. Next question is by one Mr. SLA. Where's Marco? Tell him to put some vintage Rolex heat on YouTube. We are working on that. We're trying to figure out how to get him on there. We did start an Instagram called Gentleman Timepieces Vintage, and I'll link that up and I'll link it below in the description, where Marco is going to start testing the waters and kind of figuring out how he wants to do it by talking about some vintage stuff. Some of it's from his personal collection, some of it's from inventory, some of it's scattered between collectors and clients we have. But check that out. It's where we're gonna start. If you've got some ideas, drop them below, but we are working on getting him on here. So next question is by the name that you're gonna see right here. I don't wanna butcher it. Why is it that the steel models of Rolex are more popular for an investment than rose or gold? My best answer for this one is it comes down to psychology. most people can't fathom the idea of buying a $25, $35, $45,000 gold watch. But a lot of people can see themselves buying an $8,000 to $12,000 watch, which is Rolex retail for most sport models. Now, because 100 people can see themselves buying this $10,000 watch versus the one person that can afford the $30,000 gold piece, 100 people are vying for this, which automatically makes the demand go up. Now the supply can't handle the demand, so that makes the price go up. And psychology, even though I don't exactly know how to explain it, but psychology of wanting stuff that everyone else wants and that no one can get makes you want it more. And it kind of like alters your perception, or it blinds you to this fact that stainless steel sport models are getting up to the same price as what an all gold piece is. But because 100 more people want this one over this one, this is the one that people see more valuable. That's the easiest way to explain it. And that's just how it is with anything. Next question is by UA34, most overrated watch brand and model. Hate to say it, but Richard Mille. I think it's a bubble. I do think that their pieces are pretty hyped up due to clever marketing. The owner of Richard Mille even came out and said, we are inflating prices just because I want, essentially just because I want to. You've seen multiple price increases in a very, very short amount of time, and not just, 10% or 5% increases. You've seen 40% price increases. When you think about the materials and not the materials, you think about the marketing behind it, they've done an amazing job. Now, I can see them going for a long, long time, but where I think it's kind of a bubble is I think trends pass. People get tired of one thing. Everyone, 10 years ago was all about blinged out big Breitlings and big APs, and that trend faded and people went to Rolex, and it was bust down Rolex and all gold Rolexes, and then they went to AP, back to AP Royal Oaks, and then on to Pateks, and now they're at Richard Mille. I just don't think you can run with the same trend. I don't think athletes and pop stars and everyone are going to keep running with the same brand over 10, 15, 20 years. Eventually, they're going to get to where everyone, 3 years ago, nobody could afford a $300,000 Richard Mille or even thought about wearing it. Now, everyone's got them. And they're getting into the millions, and even more people. You're seeing multiple people have $1 million Richard Milles. Eventually, it's going to get to a point where people just want something new. You can't, I don't think you can see the same brand hyped up as long as it would take to establish it. Plus, some of these watches, trading double retail, which is six-figure retails, and they're trading double, triple of that. I don't think it can last. I don't know how long, I don't know when it's gonna happen. That's just my personal opinion. So, next question. Is the watch trading industry saturated, or is there room for entry? And that's by Harrison Genua. It's not saturated. Are there a lot of people buying and selling watches? Yes. There are a lot of dealers that pop up overnight? Sure. But think about real estate. Back 6 years ago or so, whenever I got my real estate license, they were saying something like 3,000 real estate applications were coming in a day just in Texas. A lot of people I know have gotten their real estate license, but do you know how many actual realtors I know? Maybe 5, 10. I know hundreds of people that have gone to real estate school. Same thing with the watch market. I know hundreds of people that have bought and sold a few watches, that have gotten into the business, been very hyped up in the very beginning, but it takes lack of funds, it takes one wrong move. I've shared some stories about losing a $30,000 watch. Some of the downfalls I've had in this business would knock most people out. You saw a lot of dealers close shop and get out of the business when the pandemic starts because they just simply weren't prepared for the business. So I don't think it's saturated. I think there is a lot of competition, but good competition just makes for a healthy market. All right, question 10 is from Imnik184. Which watches are good for investment? Plain and simple Rolex sport models, particularly the Daytona. Start with Daytonas, go to GMTs. Those are the safe. I'll just keep you right there. Stainless steel Daytonas and stainless steel GMTs. All right, next question. Weirdo What's Up says, for a gift, would you buy a new or pre-owned ladies Datejust with factory diamonds? Absolutely pre-owned. It doesn't even matter if you're talking about a 26, 36, 31, you're going to instantly lose 25% if you buy that brand new versus going to the secondary market and buying the same brand new one or a very like new, very, very mildly used one, or gently used is the word. You could maybe even save more. The more expensive it is retail, the more you're gonna save in the secondary market. You're gonna take a huge loss if you go straight to AD and buy that. Next question is from Choid MD. How do you make sure the watches you sell are authentic? Easiest way to say that is handling watches. As many of these as I've handled, it almost becomes a second nature. So I get text pictures every single day of watches, people offering me stuff, and I've seen so many that I can tell instantly from a picture. I can't even always tell exactly what it is, but when you've seen as many watches as I have, there's just a feeling. And I get that feeling every single time before I even know what's wrong. I have a feeling something's off, and that's it. The second thing is I study watches. I read tons of books. I actually study fakes when I see them. If someone brings a fake into my office, I study it, if it's a good fake. And I figure out what are they doing new? What have I not seen before? The second thing is my business partner Marco studies the forums. So there's actually fake forums dedicated to this fake industry, and he studies that. So he knows, he's always on top of the new release fakes. Believe it or not, there's a whole separate market just for fakes, and I'm not going to talk about it because I don't want to promote it, but Marco studies that. He studies all the new stuff. So every time a watch comes in, two sets of eyes see it. If it's a picture, both mine and Marco's eyes see it, so we get two professional opinions, and that's how. But the short answer of all that is knowing watches and just looking at them every day. Next question is by Cole Sparks. When did you know you could make a living or business buying and selling watches? Well, the first video I ever posted tells a little bit about my story, and I'll post a card here so you can watch that. But long story short, I'd always had this passion in watches, and the right turn of events and getting out of prison, it kind of made me think, what do I want to do next? And I found some information online that kind of gave me the motivation to try it out, and I just tried it out. I bought a watch and I sold it, and it ended up working out. After I made my first profit, which I made $500 on my first flip, I instantly knew that I was gonna make it. It was gonna work out. I didn't know how, but I knew that that's where my mind was at. Next question, and I've actually got two by this account because I thought they were really good questions. It's paystyle.co. First question is, wear it or stash it? What's my personal advice? Well, it's simple. I don't keep money in my savings account. Not very much. I keep it in my watch collection. I consider my watch collection a safer 401k than having money in stocks, bonds, or checking savings accounts earning me 0.01% interest. And now, while I know a bunch of people are about to argue with me on compounding this and compounding that, I'll just tell you this. In my adult life, I've seen my parents' stock portfolio get cut in half 3 times. 2001 in the dot-com bubble, 2006, 2007 in the housing market crash, and then just recently here in 2020 in this pandemic. So the statistics, I'm gonna sidetrack real quick. All those statistics telling you to save $500 a year and start doing this, and it compounds when you're 65, it's gonna make you $1 million if you earn 10%. Show me where that's happened. Show me where we've had 45-year stretch of compounding interest at 10% with zero market interruptions. Now, watches, on the other hand, no matter what market interruption we've had, they don't start making more or less watches. The values, the prices that they're buying and selling at for a period of time may go up or down, but they've always gone up. If you look at watches from the 60s, where are they at now? They're 4 times the original value. So wear it or stash it. I say if you've got some extra money in a savings account and you love watches, put it into a watch, but buy one that you know for sure is going to go up in value, or at least has a great chance of going up in value. Which watches have a great chance of going up in value? Rolex, stainless steel sport models, Daytonas, GMTs, plain and simple. The next question by paystyle.co is, what is your typical margin on any particular deal? Now, that's such a broad question because it really depends on how much money I have in my operating account, How quickly do I need to move this deal? How fast can I sell it? And what are the different profit margins? If a $5,000 watch comes in today and I have 200 grand in the bank, $1 million in the bank, whatever, and I don't need to sell this right away, I can sit on this thing and hold it, and I could probably make a $2,500 profit. Now, if on the flip side, if a $100,000 watch comes in and I've only got 150 grand in my bank account, but I can sell this watch today for 1,000 and get my money recouped, I may do it. Simply because now if I hold that same $100,000 watch, I may be able to make $3,000 or $4,000 or $5,000. It just may not make sense based on how much capital I have to work with. So every deal is different. But to sum up a good answer, if it's wholesale to wholesale, typically, I wholesale a lot of watches that I never even see. Typical profit margins are $200 to $300. Watches that I buy from other dealers on call to flip to a client, typically I mark them up about $500 to $1,000. Saying you call me for a watch, I don't have it, I have to find it somewhere, I get a price, I quote my client, typically it's about $500 to $1,000 profit margin. Watches that I have in my actual inventory that I can afford to sit on, they go anywhere from, they can be $1,000, $2,000. I've got some that I've sat on for 6 months and I've made $40,000 on. I've got some that I've bought same day, sold within 10 minutes and made $20,000. It's every deal's a little bit different. So I hope that answers the question. All right, next question is by the real Benjamin Loudon. It's a good question actually. As a non-dealer flipper, how can I change watches frequently without losing money? It's hard to give an honest answer on that if you're saying you're a non-dealer flipper, because the only ones that know what the true market value price of these watches are dealers and flippers. They're wholesalers. And unless you can see what stuff is trading for on a wholesale level, you're never really gonna have a gauge, because using sites like Chrono24 and eBay and Google to gauge where a market's at is not an accurate indication of where stuff's trading at. Now, the best way I would say is stick within the brands and the models are hot and always trading fast, which obviously is your stainless steel subs, GMTs, Daytonas, anything steel Rolex sport model, anything steel AP, anything steel Patek. Those are obviously always, for the time being, gonna be safe, but it's really all about education. You've got to know a little bit about the watch market. You've got to be watching every day. Now, something you can do as a collector is you could be looking at sites like Chrono24. I would be looking at Rolex forums to see what actual collectors are selling these things for and asking prices, and kind of gauge it there. Maybe you pick a model or two that you're very, very interested in and start scanning prices across the board on multiple forums, multiple sell sites, and start talking to, maybe if you've got some dealer friends, reach out to some dealers and ask them what they could get you these watches for. And you've got to kind of start gauging where the market's at and where the sell prices are. And if you can notice, if you start to notice some trends of stuff getting popular, if there's more of one watch on the market and less of one, that means this one's more in demand or there's less available, so price may go up a little bit. Next question is from Mr. Dawsey. How did I get started in the watch business? Well, like I mentioned earlier, I did put a video out on YouTube and I will link that here. It talks about some of my ups and downs, what I did before this, coming out of prison, and just taking a chance. And I kind of had this itch and thought that I wanted to do this, so I just jumped in and gave it a try. Next question is by Fahad Gram. What's the one thing you wish you knew when starting out as an independent watch dealer? That's a great question. I was actually just talking to a kid last night at dinner about this. I wish someone would have told me to start an Excel spreadsheet, and going forward, every person you meet, dealer, client, whatever, take down their name, their phone, and their email, what they do for work. If you've got an idea on their income, write that down. But then when it comes to watches, ask, get some information, what's in their collection, and get a list of all the watches in their collection. Get a list of the stuff they're interested in, because what that would have done for me today, 2.5 years later, is I would have, if I had done it diligently, I would have a book of the perfect client. I mean, I could sit here, if one client called me for a watch, I could look in my Excel spreadsheet, type in Daytona, and it'd give me a list of everyone that's got a Daytona in their collection. I could call all those clients up and see if they want to sell it. Most likely somebody be willing to sell, and now I just satisfied this client. If I have someone over here offering me a watch, I could again hop into my Excel spreadsheet, look up who's on the list or who wants this specific watch, call every one of them individually and offer it to them. And I could sell the watch right there. I would also have an extensive list of what people do. The pros of that would be exponential, but it would be the best thing that would excel my business even more if I had started it back 2.5 years ago. Next question is by DTD.13. What's the best watch in your opinion for the dollar? I'd probably say the Rolex Submariner, what date or no date, it doesn't matter. It's the most iconic watch. It's one of the most recognized. It's one of the most sought after for a lot of people buying their first Rolex. So no matter where you buy it in the market, high or low, you're always going to be able to get out of it very, very easily. So in a sense, and if you buy it at the right price, it's going to act just like currency. So there's a plain and simple answer, the Rolex Submariner. Next question is from David Lyon. If you really want to watch and don't have history with your AD, is it better to just pay a premium? Yes and no. It depends on how long you're willing to wait. If your question means that if you've got the money ready to go and you just desperately want the watch, and it's a watch that's something that's very in high demand or in very high demand, I would say jump over to the secondary market and buy it and start enjoying it, because the time you're going to have to wait, you're probably going to see prices go up, or the money you're going to have to spend with your AD to get to that piece, you're going to lose, and it's going to equal itself out when you buy something that's non-desirable, sell it and take a loss to go get something that's desirable at retail. The loss is going to equal the difference that you're going to pay anyway, and you could have done it in a lot less time on the secondary market. Now, a lot of people say it was crazy to buy a white Daytona back in 2019 when they were asking $21,000 for it. And a lot of people jumped right out there and did it. They bought them, they paid these crazy high prices, and now look at where the Daytona's at now. It's at $26,000, $27,000 over. And those people got it instantly. They were the first to wear it. They got those bragging rights, and they've made money. So it depends on which watch you're looking at. But if you're looking at something in the steel, Rolex, AP, or Patek market, I'd say just jump in and buy it on the pre-owned. Next question is from Timepiece History, and I want to take a second to shout this guy out. He's actually written me a few articles, so I'm glad to see your question up here, man. His name's Aaron. Very, very knowledgeable, very good at researching watches. So if you're interested in the history or the anything about a brand, check out his page. He's got some great stuff on there, and like I said, he writes articles for me on occasion. If you're ever in need of a great written article about something horology, Aaron's your guy. So for his question, with the vintage market already so heavily inflated, do you think it will keep going up or correct? This goes back to my question earlier, talking about the market being high and fake or not. It's really just like any market. Every market has highs and lows. They're all gonna get hyped up for a little while, and then they're gonna level off. And they're gonna get hyped up for a little while, and they're gonna level off, and on and on and on. It's just gonna keep doing that, and history shows that no matter what industry it is, real estate, stocks, oil, everything does it. So is the vintage market high right now? Yes. Will it go back down a little bit? Probably, but then it'll go back up, and then it'll go back down, and it'll go back up. All right, almost to the end. XXNL and Nelson XX, can we see your personal collection? Yes, but not today. I'm going to do a special video of that, but I'm going to do it more towards the end of the year. I've got a couple more pieces I'm after, and then I will feel like I have a solid collection worth showing you guys. So that day will come soon. Just stay tuned. And last question is, I couldn't remember who wrote it, but I've been asked this a lot, and it goes along the lines with how do dealers manage to hold on to so much inventory? And by what they mean is, you walk into some of these stores in Miami and New York and LA and in Vegas, and they have millions and millions and millions of dollars worth of inventory. And what people are wondering is, how do they afford to just sit on that? Well, it's simple. Nobody owns all their own inventory. I don't own all of my own inventory. I own a decent portion of it, but a lot of guys, when you get into that level, they've got investors, they've built up trust, and their names are so credible in the industry, they can literally call any other dealer and have stuff memoed to them. When we open our new store here in a couple of weeks, I'm probably gonna have a lot of stuff memoed in simply because I don't have the funds to outfit my store the way I want it to look. And I have a look that I want to create, and I have an inventory and I have an audience that I want to cater to. Every other dealer is the same. We memo stuff, we leverage other people's inventory, we have investors, we have a stockpile of our own cash. So it's a combination of all those different things. So, all right guys, that pretty much wraps it up for today's Q&A. I hope you got a lot of value and information out of that. If there's anything you'd like me to elaborate on a little bit more or in more detail, feel free to drop it below in the comments.